collective fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever. Like it's global, and so everybody's feeling it. And then how might that be amplified in the people around you? It's a tough time. I had a staff meeting a few weeks ago with my staff. No, actually, this was a few months ago, but it was so intense. And I said to them, we're going to have to get really good at repair. Like I'm sure we're all stressed and we're trying to collaborate and work together. And we're going to mess up a lot, probably more now than pre-COVID. And we had a really great conversation about repair. And this could be a good time of year to do that with loved ones, to say, like, we're probably going to mess up a lot with each other this time of year. And I know that when I'm stressed, I tend to do X, Y, Z, or whatever that is. And so one strategy might be that. So I want you to sit and write about this a little bit. Okay. So what behavior or role do you find yourself in during the holidays? Because now I want to really bring it into this time of year. What role are you playing? What parts of that serve you and those around you, and what parts of that might not serve you? So I want to look at the shadow and the light. What role do you find yourself playing this time of year, in particular this year? I know in my family, I feel pressure to bring in the joy, like to do as much, if you read my Facebook post yesterday, I feel like it's my job to make sure everybody's happy. And on one level, that's really great because it's forcing me to be creative and to we discovered that there's holiday trap music. So we have raves in the living room now to like Christmas songs and holiday songs. So I think that's a gift, but it also, the shadow side for me is I'm not tapping into my grief enough. And then what happens? I just kind of become bitchy. Like I just get irritable because I'm not letting myself tap into my grief and my sadness because I feel like I have to be the cheerleader for everybody's joy. So somebody's sharing that myself and my sister are historically freezers. Yeah. Yeah. So just check in with that. What's the role you're playing now? What parts of it serve you? What parts of it do you want to watch out for? And you might even reflect on the coping strategies. I'm going to try to be quiet for a little bit and track your bodies. And feel free to write into the chat. I love hearing from you all. And then as you are writing, the next layer is that investigation of how is this, the pattern you find yourself in now, is it connected to a historical survival pattern for you? Is there a historical survival pattern for you? And once you feel fairly complete in naming this, I want to ground this back in our bodies again. This idea of offering yourself deep empathy for how you're showing up in this moment. And again, you might be like fucking it up a lot. Like, I'm not saying like keep doing what you're doing, right? If you're noticing, oh my gosh, like I'm causing harm, or I'm doing this, or I'm harming myself, right? We're not going to stop here. But the truth is like, again, can you just, like, oh my gosh, of course you're doing this, right? We want to have that empathy so that we can practice shifting that if that's something you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to invite you when you're done writing to come back into that leaning. Come back into that leaning, allowing yourself to feel for that support behind you, maybe a hand on your heart. And if your breath is feeling available to you, just allow your breath to really wash through you, to wash through your deepest impulses that are coming up to help you survive and cope. Anything old that might be coming up. Try to stay curious about what you're finding. And see if you can feel for right now a sense of groundedness in your body as you're acknowledging where you're at, the shadow and the light of it, celebrating the ways that you are coping and handling things, and acknowledging and having empathy for the ways that you might not be able to be coping right now, or that some behaviors are happening or coming out that don't ultimately serve you. And as you're doing this for yourself, you might begin to imagine some of the players in your life right now that are challenging you or surrounding you, who are also grappling with the same stuff inside, whether they're in relationship with it or not. And maybe get curious about, for them, what fear or unexpressed need might be coming to the surface. And again, they may not be communicating it with much skill, but if you can stay grounded in yourself and your own empathy for yourself, what do you see when you imagine them? And just keep tracking your body with this one. And try to stay resourced. Remember what resources might have worked for you. Grounding, breathing, staying a little oriented in the space, letting your body move a little bit. And then from this place of being grounded in yourself, what do you imagine? What would you like to imagine could be a response to some of the situations that are challenging for you? Maybe you're imagining particular words you might want to say, or behaviors, or just a way that you want to be in your own body in these different interactions or situations. Sometimes this time of year I talk about how we can like somatically practice how we want to show up. Somatically practice how we want to show up. So typically for me this time of year, pre-COVID, it was about trying to be present. Typically there's a lot of family around, and I can get very caught up in the to-do list, and I like a whole evening could go by, like Christmas Eve could go by, and I realized I don't think I sat and connected with anybody. I was just getting the dishes done, and so I'm often practicing that presence, right? For me, this time of year, it's going to be so much less hectic. There's less people around. I think there's going to be more of an opportunity to be present, and I like really hope I do it, because I don't have as many excuses. There just isn't as much happening, but I can already see myself getting stuck in the doing, because also now what we're going to drop in and get present with might be hard. My mom's not here. We're all of our lives are impacted in different ways. Um, so I'm kind of anticipating what might come, right? So part of this work is like anticipating what might come and practicing somatically how you want to show up. And so some of the practice might be very embodied. Like for me, there's a lot of like trying to stay grounded. There also might be a particular mantra or a thought that you want to repeat to yourself in particular situations. Um, Oftentimes we work with, especially if you are going to be seeing folks from your past and you suddenly feel like you're like 11 years old again, right? It's trying to stay in your adult self, reminding yourself, I'm here, I'm an adult, I'm grounded, I am strong, I can speak my truth. So much this time of year is about truth speaking, truth telling. Folks might notice tension in the throat, in the neck. So what do you want to imagine? And we're going to do a little bit of neck work and throat work around it. So, a couple of you have talked about the grief being, having dealt with loss or anticipating the loss of loved ones. And what does that mean to be with our grief and still let it move through us and let the grief and the joy potentially coexist? In fact, the grief can tenderize our hearts. It can tenderize our hearts so that we can open up to more joy. So what do you want to imagine? What do you want to express? What do you want to allow to move through you rather than holding it on, either because you're trying to protect those around you, or you're trying to protect yourself? Where is that balance between, I love this phrase, take things as they come, but try to make things come as you would like to take them. So we set up the conditions for the experience, and then we let go, and then we let go.